You guys good? You guys cool? 2 1 2 1 2. Here we go. So here is the title of my message today, and I've titled it. By the way, when I read this, I could go like, literally, I was reminded this week of how difficult it is to write a sermon. Because I could probably go like 12, 15 directions with this. But I feel like God's got a word for us today. Are you ready for this? Okay. So here's the title. The Tyranny of Meaningless Monotony with Gain on the Brain. That's as good as it gets right there. We can all go home. The Tyranny of Meaningless... Just reach your hand out, pray for the boy. Look, the Tyranny of Meaningless Monotony with Gain on the Brain. Okay, last week we dealt with this term, under the sun. This week, meaningless, and the question, super simple. What does man gain from all his labor at which he toils under the sun? So we'll try to unpack that for you today, okay? Here's kind of the way to just package it in a small, easy to think about it. And let's answer the question, why do I do what I do? Yeah. Okay? Now, just very quickly, the Hebrew, in the Bible, if you see a word repeated more than once, it's to bring emphasis. If you see a word repeated, like Jesus, he's like, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how I would love to gather you together. Like he's emphatic. Well, here you have the word meaningless 5 times in 8 Hebrew words. So basically, what the writer here, Solomon, whoever you want to say, what God is trying to get here is this cannot be said more emphatically. Yeah. He cannot say more emphatically that every single aspect of the human life, when it is detached from its reason and purpose in God, is absolutely meaningless. Look at him go. He can't say it more emphatically. Language stops. Yeah. It totally stops, and he's like, All I can do is say it 5 times in 8 words. Until we get to the point where we're reading Ecclesiastes, we open the book, and it starts talking about stuff like success and parenting and kids and influence and affluence and all those things, and you're going, no, not that too. All of it meaningless. Until you get to the point where you just set it on your desk. The picture of your kids, your hot cup of coffee, your pencils, your monitor, and everything you've amassed for yourself. And you take both arms with everything you got. And you absolutely 100% emphatically wipe it off the desk. Sorry. That's what Ecclesiastes is supposed to do for you. Yeah, that's right. Bring you to nothing. Bring you to the end of yourself. Yeah. And go, why do I do what I do? Yeah. Why? What is the meaning? What is the purpose? He's coming on strong. I know. One of the top selling shoes for a while was Tom's. J-Mac repping Tom's right now. All right. My question, as soon as I saw him, why would anybody want to wear a canvas envelope on their foot? Seemed intuitive, seemed a good question. Because if you do this, if you buy one, it feeds kids in Beverly Hills or whatever, right? Africa, right? Oh, no, give them shoes. Sorry. You buy one and they give one, right? Yeah. And now they're doing this with coffee. They're doing this with eyeglasses. They're doing this all over the world. 1 for 1. How deep is that? Yeah. How deep is that, right? Yeah. J-Mac's deeper than me. He's wearing Tom's. Because Tom's wanted to answer a deeper question than just, why do I buy shoes? Right? These guys were keying in on the idea and the truth that everybody wants to do something that matters. Yes. Everybody's asking the question, what will this gain? What will this really matter? What is the inherent value and meaning here? What good is this? We're all asking that question. We all have gain on the brain. Yeah? If you're human. Think about this. For some of you young guys, I could text you and I could say, hey son, we need to meet at the church. Right? But I didn't say why. If I didn't say what value or meaning to you it might have, maybe your next call is to your mom. And you say something like, pastor called. Yeah. Wants me to meet. I don't know. I have no idea. But if I don't make it out, please water my cactus, okay? Kidding. But you see what I'm saying? If you don't know why, you always want to know why. Like it would trouble you if I call and say, hey, I need to meet with you. Or if I need you to go do this and go do that, you want to know why. What's the point? Why are you doing that? Right. What inherent value will it have for me? What is the purpose for this? I heard an open forum where Tim Keller introduced me to Albert Camus, who is a French philosopher. I don't know if you've ever heard this before. Have I done this? Have I talked to you about Camus? I love Camus. Have I? I already have? Oh, this is going to be boring for you, bro. I can't remember doing this. Did I? Here? I did it in Seward a long time ago. I didn't think I did it at Heart of the City. So if you've already heard it, you're going to be bored for the rest of the time. Oh, well. But Albert Camus. So Tim Keller introduces us to Albert Camus, who developed the philosophy of absurdity. They think he's an existentialist. He's not. Albert Camus is actually an absurdist. The philosophy of the absurd refers to the conflict between the human tendency to seek inherent value and meaning in life and the tension between that seeking meaning and inherent value and the human inability to ever find it. Right? Yeah. So he deals with that. Which, by the way, obviously is the question of every great writer and philosopher that ever lived. And even Jesus was answering this question, right? Yeah. Okay. So basically, Camus says that the efforts of humanity to find inherent meaning will ultimately fail. Okay? You're just not going to find meaning in this life, and hence, your pursuit of it is absurd. Because the sheer amount of information as well as the vast realm of the unknown make total certainty impossible. Yeah. That's what Camus says. As a philosophy, absurdism explores the fundamental nature of how individuals, once becoming conscious of the fact that life is absurd, how they respond to it. That's what the philosophy of absurdity deals with. So, here's how he puts it. Once you become conscious of the reality that the only thing that you can be totally certain of is that life is absurd, here's how you respond. 1, you just embrace it. Life is absurd and ridiculous. 2, you defiantly continue to search for meaning. That's what Albert Camus says you should do. Because life is absurd, face it, and continually, for the rest of your life, search for meaning. So kind of in a nutshell, that's life. Get used to it. But don't get over it. Figure it out. Praise God for philosophers under the sun. Problem. If you're there, and you may be there, well, that's just life. I just take what comes at me. If you're there, problem. Albert Camus just said, as you search for meaning, nothing can be certain. So the meaning that you actually find, you can't be certain of. Yeah. Which is absurd. Which is the point. Which is pointless. Which makes me search for the point that I can't be certain of. Which is a pointless search. And a pointless search is absurd. In the circle of life. Yeah, get it. You hear it, JoJo? And most people right there, most people say, you know what? That's why I don't worry myself with this kind of thing, right? That's why I never really concern myself with this kind of stuff. I never really think like that. You know, I'm going to call Bullstein on that. I'm going to call horse feathers on that right now. That is a load of horse feathers. Yep. Yes, you do. You all got gain on the brain. Camus' greatest work is the Myth of Sisyphus. You remember this? The Myth of Sisyphus. Sisyphus, and I'm getting to a point to try to prove to you that you do have gain on the brain. The Myth of Sisyphus. Sisyphus was a Greek god who was caught giving the secrets of the gods to mortals, okay? And the gods got together and they banished him to earth, the underworld, where he met out his punishment by rolling an enormous stone to the top of a super steep hill. And every time he got to the top of the hill, just before he could place it on the top, it would roll all the way back down again. That was his punishment, day in and day out, to wake up and do the same thing over and over and over for eternity. Tim Keller, and I love the way he says this, he says the modern day equivalent would be like this. You still with me? Yeah. The modern day equivalent would be like this. Chain a person to a computer, okay? Make them do data entry all day long. Just typing data entry all day long. And at the very end of the day, right before they go to push enter to save it, it crashes. Wake up, same exact page, next day, do it again. And everybody in their heart just groans, right? You just groan. Oh my, that would be my worst nightmare. Yeah? Are you guys here? No? Yeah. I mean, when I heard that, I was like, oh my goodness, please God, no. And the chord that Camus strikes in the human heart is this. For some reason, one of our greatest fears as humans is having to execute a pointless act from which nothing ever comes, except the need to do it again. We fear no gain. Come on, we fear meaninglessness. Futility, absurdity. I had some friends, I still have them, who, super nice people, great people, very affluent, raised good kids, they have beautiful dogs, they're really successful, they could care less about God. Really in any way, other than they would just, they kind of pat you on the head if you go to church. And I remember talking to them in their kitchen one time, because I was remodeling their kitchen back then. I was working in their house, and the wife said this. She goes, my mother-in-law said the most disturbing, mean thing to me. She said, you guys never do anything for anybody. Imagine your mother-in-law, has she ever said that? Don't raise your hand. You never do anything. And this lady was absolutely 100% troubled, like tears, like, this is worst nightmare. To think of myself like this. No gain, never do anything for meaningless. And mama just went, here's a mirror. And my question, why did that trouble them? Ecclesiastes' question is, why does that trouble you? For some reason. Why does that trouble? I think it's the same reason why people are so put off when somebody makes fun of them. I think it's the same reason why people are so heartbroken when they are looked down on. I think it's the same reason people are so upset when someone is super condescending to them at their job, or you've been used, or someone examines your life and you feel like you come up short. Because you put your hard work, you put your effort in, right? Yeah. You put your hand to the plow, and it resulted in nothing under the sun. I mean, think about this. Come on. And I may be beating a dead horse here, but I like this next thought. Why is it that when you were acting up in school as a kid, right? when the teacher gets all mean and says, "You're going to be flipping burgers." Right? Didn't your teacher ever do that? Are you awake? Yep. Okay. You're going to wake up one day and realize that you amounted to nothing. When your teacher did that, your teacher was threatening you, yeah? This wasn't a goal-setting session. This was a threat. And you took it as a threat. Why? Because you feared meaning. You got gain on the brain, even as a little tiny kid. Yeah. You always do it, always will. Which is why we have French philosophers that come up with this crazy Camus stuff. Because one of our greatest fears as humans is having to execute a pointless act from which nothing ever comes except the need to do it again. The tyranny of monotony. And the question, what will it gain? So to keep gain off the brain, we tend to do the same thing.
Nice. Nailed it.
You're awake, baby. You got me. You get me. I just made that up on the fly. We stay busy enough, life under the sun preoccupies us enough, we can suppress the question, what's the point? What does it gain? Where am I really going with this? Where's this all coming from? But when we ask it, come on guys, or when we're asked it, something straight up divine goes off in us, right? The Imago Dei kind of shocks us like, whoa, I was meant for more than that. Please, do not be a fool. When we're faced with the horror of, if this life is all there is no deeper meaning than the tyranny of monotony of everyday life that is absolutely going nowhere because everything that you are and do and are motivated by and can discover and can be known is found under the sun, then every single one of us is nothing more than a Sisyphus. There is no real value or inherent meaning to any of it. So, am I really going to stand here and say that every single aspect of human life is marked by emptiness and futility when we fail to recognize the simple truth that life and everything in it is a reflection and the characteristic of God? Yes, I am going to say that. You don't need Camus to do it either. You just need Ecclesiastes to do it. Yeah. If you really are a person who wants to deny eternity past, present, and future, okay? Holds to there being no heaven, no hell. Ultimately, nothing's bigger, right? We did this last week. Life consists of you suddenly appearing in a hospital. You live for a bit, and then you vanish off into nothing. Nothing you ever do will ever live on. No gain. Ultimately, you're going to vanish, and you're going to disintegrate. On the timeline of eternity, your life, in that case, is not even a blip, right? It's not even a blip. And Camus puts it like this. Actually, you know what? Ecclesiastes puts that mentality like this. If this life is all there is and anything you do in it looks a lot like if you're in a break room. You with me? Yeah. If you're in a break room in a building and over the intercom comes a message. I'm sorry, but a gas line just broke. All the doors automatically locked in the building, and the building's going to explode in about a minute. And you're in the break room. And someone grabs you by the arm and says, "Wait! The timer on your pizza in the oven just went off." Oh no, are you serious? I gotta eat it before it burns. Really? I mean, is that your response? No. I gotta get it before it burns. And that's what Camus, that's what Ecclesiastes is trying to get us to face. Look, if that building is going down, what you do in that break room won't make one bit of difference. And if this life is all there is for this moment in time, whatever you do, I don't care if you're good or bad, won't make one bit of difference. Under the sun is the break room. Ecclesiastes is asking us all, what bothers you more? The fact that the pizza's going to burn or the building's actually collapsing. And that's the greatest question of every great thinker of all time, and they're all still trying to answer it. But Jesus comes in and he answers it for us. I put eternity into the heart of man. Come on, you know that you come from somewhere. You're living for something and you're going someplace else. Jesus he says, man, if you're tripping over the pizza in the oven of a break room in a building that's about to explode, that is about the most shallow and meaningless existence as trying to convince yourself that this life is all there really is. Yes. Because every single aspect of human life is marked by emptiness and futility when you fail to recognize the simple truth that life and everything in it is a reflection of the character and the nature of God himself. And it will literally, and you just have to admit that it will come to nothing. If nothing you ever do lives on, if nothing you ever do matters. Now, can I just make you really angry? What time is it? I'm already making you angry? Sorry. Okay. I want to make you angry, but maybe this will help. Like when like I was looking at those paddles that they put on people when they're dying. Maybe this will be like that. I don't know. I Googled it, and it says that when someone collapses, their heart can go into kind of a quivering limbo called fibrillation. They're just sort of existing, like a Sisyphus. They just kind of day in and day out, just existing, just not really knowing what it's all about, just kind of pushing that stone up the hill. And that's what the life-saving job of the defibrillator does. It shocks the heart. It's supposed to shock the heart. And it used to take training and hours of training and all this stuff, and it used to be hooked to the wall, but now they're portable. So I brought it in. Sorry, I thought that would be funnier, but it's not. Okay. Dang it. Lord, why'd you do that? I was like... What you don't know is this, that the myth of Sisyphus was actually Albert Camus doing his best to describe a picture of hell. Okay? Now, let me just punch you. You good? You all right? Yeah. Okay, all right. Okay, all right. If you're experiencing the tyranny of monotony in your life, day in and day out, and day in and day out, if your life has literally been a waste of your time, okay? If you are stuck in a life that you feel like you continually need to take a vacation from, maybe you have been rolling the stone, and I'm going to duck, but maybe you've been rolling the stone of this marriage up the hill, and it just keeps on coming back down, and it's not going anywhere. Maybe you've been rolling the stone of your kids up that thing, and they just keep on coming back to the same place. Maybe you've been rolling the stone of your career up there, and it's going nowhere. Whatever it is, put it in your lap. The biggest problem with hell that you may not understand is that hell is actually something that you continue to choose that is apart from your design and reason for living, and God gives it over to you. So let me just try to get a little more into your head. Maybe for some of you, something has begun in you that you keep choosing. It's not letting up. It's coming to nothing except the need to think it again, to do it again, to say it again to yourself. And it's literally going nowhere. And if Camus is right, hell has already begun for you. Now, I don't mean to be irreverent or blasphemous, but I can't help to think how sad it would be to live a Christian walk where Jesus is nothing more than a Sisyphus who does his best to roll the stone of your heart up that hill every morning, and right when you're about to get satisfied, right when you're about to get happy, right when you're about to get breakthrough, it just rolls back down. Meaningless, no gain. And I have to push you. I have to push you. Look, that is not the gospel. That mentality is not it's not God's heart for you. It is not the truth. It is a deception. It is a philosophy that you can try to find under the sun, and you think at some moment you got to make your move, you got to change everything. But guess what? God's the one that brings the change. No, God will bring the change. That's the gospel, that God actually cut a hole in the glass above heaven and dropped into humanity and started making changes. Started making all kinds of things new for you. The promise of God is that it will be made new. Come on. Ezekiel 36, I'll read it to you. You have to see it for yourself. Ezekiel 36, and I will give you a new heart. Maybe not a new spouse. Maybe not a new job. No, I'm going to give you a new heart. And a new spirit I'm going to put within you. You have to understand that in Jesus Christ, in the gospel, his mercies are new every single morning. No, that's the truth. Why would you fall for any of this stuff under the sun when you have explicitly in the Bible that there is only newness found from above the sun? Infused into you. I will remove the heart of stone. Isaiah 43:19. Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Don't you feel it? Don't you see it? Don't you perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. Revelation 20. This is the heart of God. And he who is seated on the throne said, behold, I'm making all things new. There's nothing new under the sun. So what? He's making all things new. Isaiah 65:17. For behold, I create a new heavens and a new earth, and the former things shall not be remembered. Ephesians 2:15, by abolishing the law and the commandments and rules and religion and stupid stuff that you think is going to help, that he, Jesus, might create in himself, the God-man, the God that is in you, the Imago Dei in himself, one new man. You are a new man. In place of the two, so making peace. Ephesians 4:24, and to put on the new self, created after the likeness of God in true righteousness and holiness. Hebrews 8:13, in speaking of the new covenant, he makes the first one obsolete. And what is obsolete and growing old is ready to vanish. Lamentations 3:22 and 23. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are absolutely new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. So my admonition to you, brothers and sisters of God, stop rolling up and down that hill looking for meaning and finding no gain. Your life is hidden in Christ and God. God is going to bring the change. God is going to bring the newness. He is faithful. How many times have you been stuck in a bad job, in a bad situation, and God at the perfect time just makes the move? Here's a new one. A new commandment. This is new. Every single morning, a new commandment I give you, that you love one another. That never gets old. Just as I have loved you. So if you are feeling lost in a world that is not changing for you, just start there. Yeah? Start there. You are designed by God to care about God and people. You can do that, right? So stop convincing yourself that you don't care. And don't let the devil tell you that you cannot or never will again. Yeah? Am I done? I just have one last point. Can I make this point? Look, come on, listen. I've heard it put like this. If I take listen, you want to know what the meaning of life is? You want to know how to get all out of life, everything that it has for you under the sun? It's got to come from above the sun. Watch this, look. I've heard it put like this. If I took my drift boat to the top of the hill on O'Malley, okay, y'all bought me a drift boat a few years ago. And if I took that thing and put it in the middle of the street at the top of O'Malley, and I started up the motor, I cut the anchor, and I started sliding down the hill. Okay? If I did that, first of all, I would destroy my boat. Right? Because of the glaringly obvious truth that by dishonoring the reason for an object, you end up destroying it. No gain. No gain. Just like the boat was not designed to end in splinters at the bottom of a hill, neither are you, y'all. You're not designed for meaninglessness. And you will rebel against it. But it goes further than that. Let me just say this. Look. Let's just say I actually slide all the way to the very bottom of the hill. And it's not in splinters, and it's kind of actually still intact. A few of my closest friends would come up and say, hey, bro, check it out. I want to try to just talk to you about why you didn't catch any fish, okay? and we're going to go get the oars that broke off about Birch Road, and we're going to put them back on. I'm going to show you how to use those, okay? And why your little motor burnt up. Because if you find the reason for an object and you honor its design, it reaches its fullest potential. Right? Yep. You're the little boat that could. Just kidding. Sorry. Oh, we're all little boats that can't, but Jesus can. Romans 8:17 says this. Now, if we're children, if we're children, then we're heirs, heirs of God and co-heirs with Christ. If indeed we share in his sufferings, we're going to push a rock around. Of course we are. In order that we may also share in his glory. Now that, my friends, is gain.
Yes.
The glory of God. Amen. That's all I got for you today.